Hey, got another riddle for you. What gets bigger the more you take away from it?
Well, let's see. Something abstract, I expect. Appetite? No, that doesn't work.
Stump the stump.
Oh, isn't that clever? Bampot.
This cat is called Blossom. Somewhere between the shop it was bought in and my home, I managed to chip its ear. I think I'd knocked the bag against a metal chair or something. It was, and possibly still is, intended as a gift. The plan was to make this video, then write the URL for the video on a little slip of paper, plug it into the bottom just here, and then give it to you to watch on New Year's. Knowing me though, it's very unlikely that this video will be finished by then. You know who you are. I hope this video finds you well, in good health and sound mind. I hope you are sitting comfortably, and I hope you win the bet we made not long ago. February is right around the corner. Dwarven Magic in the recent God of War games is funny. It operates with such an intense lack of understandable logic or physics that it seems to insult those who would dare to try and understand it. Brock and Sindri are a pair of dwarven brothers whose skilled magical blacksmithery serves to upgrade your equipment throughout the games. If you want a stronger axe, different armor, or even just general goods, they are your vendor. And in the final game of the Nordic duology of the new God of War Ragnarok, they play a much more active presence throughout the story, taking action that directly impacts the course of events that play out. Aside from that though, they do just have this fun little habit of achieving the impossible with a really blasé attitude. The way they wield Dwarven magic is actually like a big point of comedy in the game. Feats like teleportation, weapon modifications with only the most minute of physical touches, and having a secret house in the realm between realms. Like, there's a quote somewhere that I'm struggling to find, but essentially the quote is that a dwarf was able to build a piece of armor out of entirely intangible concepts. It was something like he made a chest plate entirely out of wolf barks. Your player characters, Kratos and Atreus, are understandably astounded by the miracle work these dwarves can do. So at different intervals throughout the games, they will try to ask the dwarves for information about how their magic actually works.
It's a little trick my people can pull. A special way of not being seen.
You can be invisible?
More like I can step into the realm between realms. And your mind doesn't understand what it's seeing, so it sees nothing at all. That's how we avoid ever having to actually use the weapons we craft. It doesn't seem to work on dragons, though.
Your brother wanted.
And while nothing very clear comes up from these conversations, there is one very interesting insight that does crop up. Brock tells Kratos the following.
Dwarven Magic's all about the intangibles. The relationship between the stuff what you can touch and what you can't. It's about understanding.
Understanding what?
The nature of a thing's more important than the form of a thing.
We will revisit this later. When I was in sixth form, there was this girl that I fancied. The schooling journey has changed since I grew up, but back when I did it, sixth form was the part of the British education journey that typically takes place from around ages 16 to 18 if you do it immediately. You can get held back a year and do it a year later. So just to break it down, you do primary school starting at around age 6, secondary school starting at around age 11 or 12, and then when you've done your 5 years of secondary school education, you move on to either college to study specialist trades, or sixth form to further your standardized academia like English, math, sciences, and the arts. I would actually go on to try both of these at different stages of my life, and the qualifications I got, I took absolutely nowhere. That's beside the point. When I was roughly 16, I met a girl in sixth form, and they indirectly turned me into a creative. Humans have to use creativity as a fact of life. In ways big and small, we all have little human decisions to make about how we present ourselves to the world and how we choose to live that requires some amount of creativity. Our fashion, our humour, our tastes and pursuits, it's all creative. But people don't really consider themselves as creatives. They don't start calling themselves a creator until they find a medium for that creativity to make a more tangible shape. Think musicians, painters, dancers, things like that. Up until age 16, the most creative thing I did was sing, but I was never a songwriter. I would only write when my English class demanded it, and I'd only drawn when drawing was the class activity that day. I wouldn't even go on to make my first proper YouTube video until years later. I wasn't a creator, and then one day, I was. So this girl in school was a horse girl. She had a hobby of taking care of and riding horses, and they would chronicle this hobby in their own YouTube channel. This mostly consisted of, like, playful little edits of their equestrian fun having put to the tune of whatever music was popular at the time. This is footage from their actual channel, which I did get their permission to share. This is 90% of their videos, but there was one which caught me off guard. One of their videos didn't have music as the backdrop. Instead it had this.
There will be bad days. Be calm. Loosen your grip, opening each palm slowly now. Let go.
This is a section of Shane Koizan's brilliant performance poetry piece, Instructions for a Bad Day. An evocative message about the struggle of bolstering your own backbone against the backdrop of a world that does not promise you happiness. It spoke to me in the way that art speaks to humans. A day before, movies were just entertainment, art was wall decoration, books were for education, and then suddenly, the things the world was capable of creating became about
still there, and always there is light.
Being human. So I became a performance poet, somewhere around 2013, 2014, and over the course of maybe 4 years, I dove deeper and deeper into the growing community of poets in Nottingham. I joined a collective, I performed in organised shows and open mics, and I built a relationship with this art medium. I can't say for sure, but there's a chance that this might have never happened if not for the YouTube videos of this one horse girl that I really wanted to get to know better. My poetry was pretty juvenile. After seeing the way that Shane seemed to be able to move emotional mountains with the mere wordsmithery he could output, I had a good idea of what I wanted to emulate, but very little in the way of actual life experience to draw from. So I would write these long, disconnected love letters to intangible concepts, desperately trying to see how many heartstrings I could tug while talking about things like youth, love, and camaraderie. This is what my voice sounded like 7 years ago.
The easiest excuse for writer's block: I need to be inspired. I need to be hot-wired into a matrix of men and women who are driven by every feeling they are given. I need rhythm and words. The page is a treasure map and the pen is a decipherer where we will write our ways to gold. We sold ourselves on the belief that we could write smiles onto people.
I might still have been a teenager. I don't think I was bad. I'm actually a little proud. I don't think this would go on to represent me artistically as I would develop. But then, a sign of things to come, I would write about the person I was in love with. So in God of War Ragnarok, there is a plot point that almost made me cry. Kratos must take on the god Heimdall, a being blessed with some level of future sight. He can literally see your swings and strikes approaching before you even commit to them. A crucial flaw, though, is that while Heimdall is some flavour of all-knowing, he is not all-powerful. You could catch a ball if you knew exactly where it was going to go, but you couldn't catch 9 of them thrown at the same time, even with some level of superhuman premonition. You only have 2 hands. And Heimdall is working with some similar limitations. The goal is to overwhelm him. So the dwarves, Brock and Sindri, concoct a plan to turn a magical artifact into a weapon capable of overwhelming all of Heimdall's faculties. Draupnir is a real object of Norse mythology. Canonically crafted by Brock and Sindri, Draupnir is a gold ring capable of replicating itself infinitely. In God of War's depiction of Draupnir, when left to its own devices for maybe 40 seconds, the ring will burst into a small handful of replica rings, but only the original ring possesses this self-cloning property. So they want to make a weapon that has a more refined musing of this self-replication ability. So Brock and Sindri have the idea, but they don't possess a forge strong enough to make something as grand as they can imagine. Brock and Sindri agree. They need the power of...
The lady.
The lady.
The lady.
The lady. The lady. The lady. The lady of the forge.
We're not given many clues about the nature of the lady, just the title and the knowledge that she can apparently craft us a legendary weapon. And when discussing going to see the lady, an argument breaks out amongst the brothers. Kratos needs one of them to accompany him to see the lady. After Brock shows great excitement to the task, Sindri protests.
I'll take it from here.
Oh no! This whole thing were my idea. I'll speak to the lady. I never get to speak to the lady.
There are reasons for that.
Brock will go.
What? No.
You heard him. Quit your...
Sindri is keeping a secret from Brock, a secret he knows that the lady might blow the whistle on. But Kratos, none the wiser, demands that Brock take him and Sindri keeps his little dwarven mouth shut. So they travel to Svartalfheim, home of the dwarves, in order to seek out the lady, and whilst there, we get this big lovely lore drop on exactly how Dwarven Magic works.
See? Dwarven Magic's all about the intangibles. The relationship between the stuff what you can touch and what you can't. It's about understanding.
To fit this theme on intangibility, Brock even improvises a gift to give to the lady. So when beset on all sides by the squalls of mountainous wind, he collects himself a bag. The first poem I remember writing dedicated to one of my partners was called To the Boys Who Like Girls with Eating Disorders. It wasn't literally the first one I wrote about my partner, but at the time it was the one that typified my experience. My first long-term partner spent years in and out of care facilities trying to treat her anorexia. Even now, I remember being on the ward walking past little girls who looked so close to collapsing that the noise of my own footsteps might break them. So I would slow my movements to a shuffle while making my way to my partner's room. This poem was my first ever counting poem, a structure of writing poetry that, well, counts. The opening paragraph read as follows. 1. Be unafraid to call her beautiful. Feel no hesitation when articulating the grace in her intricacies, the delicacy she wields when flicking back her hair, the shape her semblance sets in as she sleeps, the way she holds a fork. Slowly but surely, I would come to chronicle my feelings for her across what I wrote, and in my poetry, a time capsule of our relationship lived and died. As time went on, I found myself unable to keep myself happy in a relationship so constantly stymied by illness. I also had very little life experience around mental health. I was in this relationship between ages 17 to 21. Looking back at it now, I'm sad to say I'd set far too high expectations of what recovery and survival from anorexia actually looked like. As the relationship kept going, I felt bitter, quashed, and unfaithful. And this cropped up in my writing. Details of love turned into musings of my reservations, became languishings of my inability to justify a relationship that was so dysfunctional. And then I would meet. The lady turned out to be my favourite part of the entire game. After questing through the mountains of Svartalfheim, they come across this gorgeous bit of architecture erected above a body of water. And then, after crafting the bits and bobs required to operate the machinery centered in this place, the motif of Dwarven Magic comes up again. Kratos remarks,
I see no forge.
You don't see the form of a forge, but we're going to the nature of one.
And with that, the characters are plunged deep into the forge where the question on everybody's mind is answered, and we discover the true identity of the lady. Only then, at the bottom of the lake, we discover that the lady is actually... The Little Mermaid was the next big poem I wrote about somebody I was in love with. In the original Disney movie of The Little Mermaid, the plot revolved around the main character Ariel having her voice swindled out of her by an evil sea witch, Ursula. I used this story motif as a metaphor to talk about this new person in my life. They were a survivor of domestic abuse, so I wanted to write about what it feels like to be silenced at the hands of another person. In the poem, I wrote, She houses pipes that were silenced a while back. Now all the noise is mute, all the lyrics refute, and all the tones are flat. She is a little mermaid. A villain stole her voice at the promise of love and a kinship of bliss, and what a bargain that is. String up your vocal cords and I will meet each pained utterance with a kiss. I'll be the hiccup in your throat, the stutter in your sentence. My sweet nothings will be the only sound you know. The timeline for this one is a bit weird. We went through some amounts of will they won't they nonsense for maybe about 7 years. Basically, anytime I found myself single throughout those 7 years, my mind would drift to this person, and it was only in 2022 that we actually attempted to have a relationship. It didn't last, but in varied capacities throughout those years, I really did love them. I'm rushing ahead though, because there was somebody else. Somebody who had the biggest impact on me. The sort of, this is why you're in therapy relationship. This happened around the same time I had been developing my big other art form. I never gave up on poetry, truly. I just plugged most of my writing into a brand new hobby, and that's exactly what you're watching right now. I started making a spear, the first weapon Spartans are trained to use. At the bottom of the lake, the lady, a mermaid living in what's meant to be the nature of a forge, took Draupnir, the magical ring, and crafted the Draupnir spear. A spear with the ability to be thrown and then immediately rematerialize in Kratos' hand. This is how it would make use of the infinite duplication of the original Draupnir ring. This is the power of the blood of a god-made material. This would be a weapon strong enough to overwhelm Heimdall. And now, with the weapon being crafted, there was only one final step. Brock had said this interesting line earlier.
Well, we'll both see soon enough. I know this, though. If we're real lucky, she'll give us her blessing.
And so the moment of truth.
Delphi almost forgot. Ma'am, it would be an honor if you might bless it for us. Are you, hello? Hello? The fuck was that?
She left me. After a year of what I thought was the best relationship I'd ever had, she just didn't love me anymore. And it was so obvious to everyone other than me. There was always someone else, and I was never enough, and for every day for the rest of my life, I would wake up still wearing the skin of a man she fell out of love with. And I couldn't fucking stand that I had to look like that person. So I dropped 2 stone in record time. I would walk for hours with exactly 434 calories in my stomach that day. I denied, I angered, I bargained, I depressed, and I accepted that the new normal was that people could be ripped away from you, and whatever you were, left behind was just whatever you were. That's just who you were now. And your mum, who loved me, still wanted to keep in touch, and I couldn't because I couldn't be near you. So I blocked her, and I blocked all of your other friends, and I blocked the other guy, and I wish I was stronger. I wish I was more elastic and more secure, but I'm not. I'm just the guy you couldn't love anymore. And sure enough, she would turn up in my art too. She was the skin I worshipped in this list. She was this entire monologue. I feel like I've spun lip service on my own trauma in every possible way. I've cracked the shell on, like, every difficult conversation. I've like TED talked myself through my own personal history long enough to write a thesis on it. But despite all of that, I seldom feel like I'm getting any better. I feel stuck. I'm literally lying awake thinking of the same problems, the same people, the blood they left in my bed, and the hair that's still in my shower. I was hoping that I could look at the characters from all of these shows that I've brought up and pretend I've got something to learn. A cautionary tale, a musing of methodology, some vague answer to the question, what the fuck do I do now? Where do I even go from here? What does getting better even look like? And here's the kicker. Here's the unhinged, disgusting, yucky bit. You see these shots, these lovely little visuals that I put throughout the video? These bits in particular? That was her fucking place of work. Now this was the highlight of the entire game for me. This is where I was so close to crying, and I'd like to give some detailed narration, but I think I want you guys to just sit and watch this.
Ma'am, it would be an honor if you might bless it for us. Are you, hello? Hello? The fuck was that? She acts like I weren't even here.
Mermaids don't speak to our corporeal bodies. They speak to a part of our soul. A part specifically you might be missing.
Fuck! Damn it, Sindri, you lion cat scrubber! I knew it. I died. I fucking died! The fuck you want?
It needs a blessing.
Yeah, well, the one to give us the blessing just fucked off into the tomb.
It needs the blessing of a great blacksmith.
What? No, I can't bless shit. I don't have all my soul bits. The blessing wouldn't mean squat.
It is the nature of a thing that matters, not its form.
All right. May this weapon strike true. May it be wielded with wisdom. May it be put down when its job is done.
Let us return home.
So that is what Sindri had been hiding from Brock, and this is the core of Dwarven Magic. This is the subject matter of this video. This is Blossom. This video is my last grand gesture to the last person on this list to be loved. Nature and form. You see, the person who asked for this video often had a complaint about me. They would tell me that my actions don't reflect my intentions, or at least not what I would communicate. I never wanted a relationship with this person, but in truth, we really loved each other. But like the sound of silence, we had to do a lot of shh to keep it from breaking. This is not a declaration of intentions. I'm not going to upload this video and then stand outside somebody's window with a boombox blaring "How Deep Is Your Love" by PJ Morton. They know what's up. This video is not an expression of romance. It's part friendship and part apology. It's my admission of dwarven sorcery. It's my acknowledgement that despite my form not always portraying love, here is my nature. Memories of the people I love live in my art. And here are some of the best things I will ever produce, and they are completely about you. It's about the way you bend around the strain of the universe enacting its will upon you, and the colours and shape you leave in the wake of that parlay. Creating art and participating in Dwarven Magic might be my actual love language. And for the people watching this video that aren't you, what do I want you to take from this? I'm not sure. Some time ago, a family member of mine was at their very lowest point. They had even been in and out of hospital due to self-inflicted attempts. And in understanding the extreme mountain that mental health is, my mother took them in, regularly washed their clothes and fed them, and just ultimately used what time she had to offload all of the simple adult burdens that come with living. More so than anything else, she taught me that love is something that you do and not just something you say or feel. This, while being a very nice way to support somebody, also falls squarely within one of the popularly understood love languages. Acts of service is one of the many ways to love someone. But the truth is, the popularly understood love languages are a pseudoscience. It's one man's writing on the subject matter, and it's subjective, flawed, and small. How you go about personally filling out the quota of how you love someone can be immediately hard to recognize. It can even be subconscious. I'm a poet as much as a partner because they literally happen in parallel. I'm creating as I'm loving. Creating art and facilitating love engages with all the same parts of our humanity. Creativity, consideration, a third word beginning with C. If you're living, you're loving. I'll try to summarize eloquently. This is about looking at yourself and looking at your own love language. For me, it's poetry and videography. It's how I take what's in my head and put it on the outside, and if loving you is in my head, then it will come out in my art. Your creativity may very well be the vehicle of your love, making itself seen, known, and felt. I know your eyes in the morning sun. I feel you touch me in the pouring rain. And the moment that you wander far from me, I wanna feel you in my arms again. And you come to me on a summer breeze, keep me warm in your love, then you softly leave. And it's me you need to show. How deep is your love? Is your love? How deep is your love? I really need to learn, 'cause we're living in a world of fools, breaking us down when they all should let us be. We belong to you and me.